Good afternoon, and thank you for listening to Conversations for College Success. Thank you to my subscribers and new listeners who I hope will become subscribers. This is Instructor Jones, and the topic today is for college as well as high school graduates. The topic is looking for employment. The subtitle is Looking for Employment is a Full-Time Job, and it's really important that you are aware of that. Make sure that in looking for employment, you are using all of the resources available to you. Resources include your family, your friends, LinkedIn, friends from previous employment, volunteer contacts, your references, your teachers, your professors, your mentors. You can set up a job search function on LinkedIn. If you're not familiar with LinkedIn or you do not use LinkedIn, I have a previous podcast about LinkedIn. And just so you know, LinkedIn is a professional social media site. I also have previous podcasts on networking, the importance of support and the power of relationships when you're under stress. Oftentimes, looking for employment is a stressor. So a way to see how others can help support you through this time frame. Also know that looking for employment takes time. There are oftentimes a time frame with which it's easier to find one than others. I say that because for those of you in high school and college, oftentimes whether it is your high school has a career fair or your college will also have career fairs. They oftentimes have one in the fall as well as in the spring. If you did not participate in those, that's why it becomes a little bit harder. When you participate in those, it gives you a jump start as it relates to looking for whether it's a co-op or internship, but in this case, full-time employment upon graduation. So the earlier you look, the easier it is to find, because oftentimes you're looking when employers are also looking for employees. Now, here's some things that you need to remember. Reminder, looking for employment does take time. From the organization standpoint, they're looking for specific skill sets and the right fit, which basically means compatibility. Are you compatible within the organization, within the team we'd like you to work with and within? You should also be looking for a good fit and compatibility too. This is not a one-way street. Do you or did you feel comfortable in the interview? Can you do the work? Will you continue to enjoy doing the work? Is there room for growth in the position? Is there room for growth within the organization? Those are all things that typically you don't think about ahead of time. You think about after you get there. You want to be aware of those things before you join an organization. Also, just like those of you who went from high school to college before looking for employment, and it was scary and uncomfortable, so can looking for employment be a little bit scary and a little bit uncomfortable. Things that can help you with that: put together a plan of action. The plan of action should include what organizations are you targeting or looking at? Are there people within the organization? And you can look at that through looking either through their directory or through their annual report. Are there some people there that you might possibly already know and can have a conversation with before you apply? Or are there people there that you would like to know to expand your professional network? That would require an informational interview. That is not a job interview. Those are two distinct things. Informational interviewing is allowing you to gather information that can help you in terms of researching the position, learning about the organization, learning about their expectations, learning about their goals, their values, if they actually state those. So all those things become important. So you're going to be looking online, you're going to be talking with and possibly informational interviewing people who either currently work there or previously worked for an organization. Also, when you're looking at organizations, questions to ask, in this case, whether in the interview or an informational interview, you want to learn about the organization's culture. What are trends in the industry? What are their expectations? Those are all things that are important to you as it relates to that. The other thing as to why those things are important, for some of you, you're going to need 2 resumes. Typically, people have 1 resume and they throw everything, including the kitchen sink, within that resume. However, if one area you're looking for is specifically in your field of expertise or where you went to college for, or maybe you have specific skills in, that should be a distinct resume, and that's all that should be discussed and covered within that resume. However, people oftentimes look for opportunities outside of their expertise. That should be a different resume. That should be a more general resume, a resume where you are sharing general skills and abilities that you have, but not necessarily specifically tied to an industry, and you're no longer applying in that industry. Again, some previous podcasts I have one on interviewing. I have one on, I think a couple on resumes, and I also have some on networking. All those things become important for you for your becoming successful in navigating looking for employment. Please also know, reminder, looking for employment is a full-time job. That's a part of the reason why it may become stressful. But it may also become stressful because either you haven't received any requests for an interview, or you've received requests for interviews, but you have not received feedback from the organizations. Everything works off of an organization's time frame and not yours. You're the one looking for employment. They're the one seeking the right candidate. So they're going to take their time looking at the various candidates that have applied. Everyone is sending in resumes. Sometimes they'll shut down an opportunity because they've received too many resumes. So you need to be aware of you're actually operating on someone else's time frame. So behind that, you may receive what's called a phone interview or an in-person interview, or maybe even a Zoom interview. Again, interviews is a podcast I've put out there for you to get more details about expectations and what those things include. A reminder as it relates to when you get an interview, you should always go with questions. Please know that employers are not impressed if you show up and have no questions for them. Listen to that podcast because I tell you how many questions you should take to the interview so that you are prepared. Again, looking for a job or looking for employment is a full-time job. That means you need to plan not only in terms of the organizations and the people and resources. As I mentioned, you might want to take time to talk with some of your professors, some of your teachers, some of your references, employment. You might even take the time to volunteer. It could be inside the industry or outside the industry. Again, you're always looking to improve yourself, but also create additional contacts. Hence why LinkedIn can become important. You can become connected to people who can then connect you to others within the industry you're looking to move into. Make sure you remember it takes time. You're usually not going to find the first opportunity that you either apply for or get an interview with is going to be the one who accepts you. If you know that up front, then you realize it's a numbers game. And I don't mean that negatively. The more resumes you put out, the more opportunities you have to get an interview. However, make sure you take time as you put your resumes together, as you do your interviewing and practice your interviewing skills. All those things make you a better candidate for an employer to be impressed with. Because remember, you're in competition. You are not the only person applying for that particular opportunity. So what helps you to stand out, not only with your resume, what also helps you to stand out during the interview process. All of those things take time. Make sure that you are practicing or talking to someone who can help guide you through that process. And finally, don't forget to look at any of my previous podcasts that can help you along the way as you're looking for employment. I'd like to thank you for taking the time for listening to this podcast. Thank you to my current subscribers, and also thank you to my current listeners who I hope will become subscribers. This will be my last podcast for a few weeks because hopefully all of you are working or will be working very shortly, and I want you to be taking your time to put in the effort over the summer. And I'll return probably just before fall starts with a few reminders for you, whether you are looking to take that next step in terms of progression in your employment, or you're returning back to your university, or you're returning back to high school. As those things go forward, you can look through previous podcasts to help you remind you of things that you need to be aware of and do. But I'll also have some new podcasts definitely in the fall to help you moving forward. Thank you again for listening and have a great day. Bye-bye.